Exorcisms are on the rise in the United States, and those trained to perform these rituals are rising to meet that need. Let's bring someone in who has performed an exorcism, Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone of the Archdiocese of San Francisco. Your Grace, it's fantastic you carved out time for this. First, I want you to tell the folks, many who have never come face to face with evil, the range of emotions. There are major exorcisms, there are minor exorcisms, but still, the level of angst, the emotion that goes with something like this.
Well, there's certainly a psychic disturbance, often manifests itself with physical symptoms. And so people who have this sensitivity to discern the demonic presence can detect that. So there are exorcisms of persons. Those are the most common ones. There's also such a thing as an exorcism of a place where there seems to be demonic activity in the place. When it involves a person, which is the vast majority, there's a whole team that's involved because they have to discern, is this really demonic possession or is it more of a psychological disturbance, which the vast majority are. So that's where there are always medical professionals on the team, a psychiatrist and or a psychologist, other people to pray, to assist. When it is an actual demonic possession, then there are manifestations that are of beyond human capacity, of like strength and these sorts of things. And so there has to be sometimes a whole team of people to hold the person in place as their exorcism is being performed. The two that I performed were minor exorcisms of a place where we had two Junipero Serra statues that were toppled here in the Archdiocese. And I had sensed a very strong presence of an evil manifestation there. So I knew we had to rely on our spiritual resources to address that.
You know, there's been an increased demand for exorcisms over the last decade or so. An exorcist in 2018 told The Atlantic he got 1,700 requests by email and by phone. Another new report says the number of exorcists has surged from about 50 in 2016 in the U.S. to now between 125 and even as high as 150 by estimates. Is this a sign of evil on the march, or is it godliness in retreat in America, or a combination of both in your view?
A combination of both and other things. I can confirm that increase. Before I came to San Francisco, I was the bishop in Oakland on the other side of the bay, on the east side of the bay. And I asked a young priest, I brought him into my office I asked him to be, we call it the vocation director, basically the recruiter for the Archdiocese, to bring in more seminarians to become priests. But I knew I needed to appoint someone to this position to do deliverance ministry and exorcism. And during the course of a conversation, it became clear to me he would be a good man for that job. So I asked him on the spot to take that on. Well, that ended up taking up all of his time. There was such a great demand. So there is a rise. I think certainly a big part of it is a retreat from godliness. I find it curious that religion on the decline, we're supposedly turning to science for truth, but there seems to be an increased fascination with the occult. So there's kind of more of that fascination with it. People are more aware of it, so they're like ready to conclude that it's a demonic possession. Most of the time it's not. But there's another factor involved here that the exorcists I've worked with inform me of. When there is an actual demonic possession, there's always been some kind of childhood trauma. They've suffered some kind of violence. Usually it's some kind of sexual violence, but there are also other types of violence. That opens the door to a demonic possession. And then if the individual becomes involved in the occult, all kinds of occult practices that are so common now, Ouija boards and tarot cards and seances and so forth, the door is wide open for demonic possession. So I think with the way our society is going, it's fertile ground for that.
Yeah, Your Grace, I've only got about a half a minute left, and I wanted to get this because the conversation you and I are having, you don't see it everywhere on cable or on television. And of course, as you know, we've been thrown off of DirecTV because I believe certain people don't want us to have these kinds of conversations. What does the Bible tell us about freedom of expression, about the ability to have all points of view heard and listened to?
Certainly a biblical principle is the affirmation of human dignity, right? That comes from Genesis 1, 26, 27, where God created the man and the woman in his image and likeness, reflect the image of God. So there's this basic principle of human dignity, which means we should try to understand the other person, the other person's point of view. So I think it's so important that people gather as much diversity of perspectives as possible. And I've always appreciated Newsmax for the unique perspective it brings to the table.
Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate your time in this Lenten season.